Hi, I'm Johnny and you're watching a Hexy Beast. And on today's episode we're going to be taking a quick look at this game right here, Beyond the Rift, a Perdition's Mouth card game. I just want to say before we start that I was provided a preview copy of this game. Anyway, let's get it to the table and see how it plays, shall we? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a character, and the one I've chosen today is Niffle. As well as that, I'm also going to grab his character deck, which is marked with his symbol here, which is also shown on his character board. I'm just going to shuffle this and place it down by here to form my draw deck. As well as that, I'm also going to grab two of my own cubes. This is a prototype version, so I'm having to provide my own cubes. I'm going to place one here, then I'm going to get out the threat tracker and the mission board, and I'm going to place it off to the side. I'm going to take the other cube and place it in the 0 space. Just like this. So this means the threat is set at 0 as we're playing on easy. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the wound cards and give them a good shuffle. You'll know these are the wound cards because they are the red cards with the symbol in the corner. And I'm just going to place them face down nearby. As well as that, I'm going to take these fatigue cards, and as they're all the same, I'm just going to leave them face up next to the wound deck. Now, all we need to do is take these cards outlined in the scenario, which are train cards. I'm going to place them over here, and then the last but not least, we're going to also take all these and we're going to form a deck. Also, as part of the setup of the scenario, we are told to put an acolyte and a guard into the quest area. So I'm just going to do that now, and I'm going to give these enemy cards a shuffle and place them by here. Okay, as well as that, what the startup instructions for the scenario give us is telling us to draw a terrain card, and our goal in this scenario is to get through all these terrain cards before the end of round 8, as if we hit 8 on that threat track, we are going to lose the game. So anyway, let's just get on to some gameplay, shall we? Okay, so as you can see, he starts with 8 action points. That's what that symbol means. So he's just going to move this cube over to the number 8 space. Then, because we're playing a solo game, what we're going to do is we're going to draw 7 cards from our player deck, and then we're going to get on with our first turn. And just one more thing before we get started is to shuffle this response deck and place it off to the side for when enemies require to use it. And I'll explain how that's used as we go through. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the player card. The first thing you might notice is that at the top here we've got range. Then we've also got the effect of the card and the cost to play it. And then this little blue number here is actually the cost if we were to stack it on top of another effect. So say if we already had an attack out there that was 5, we could then spend another action point in order to make it an 8. It also comes with its bonus ability. So that's basically how a player card looks. Now let's take a look at the enemy cards. If we look at this guard here, you can see that it has some stats across the bottom. So first of all, we have the engagement cost. This means that it's going to cost us 3 action points in order to engage this enemy and take it from range 2 to range 1. This is its range, which means when it attacks us, it will be able to attack us from the quest area. This is its attack value, this is its defense value, and this is its actual health. So right now, he's in the quest area, up top, and we're not engaged with him. So shall we just get on and play a turn? Okay, so turns in Beyond the Rift follow a 5-phase structure. In the first phase is going to be the hero phase, which is where we play our cards. The enemy phase is going to be where the enemies activate. The spawn phase will basically bring new enemies out and new terrain cards. And the draw phase will basically be where we draw back up to our hand size and gain our action points. And then the end phase in this scenario just means that this threat tracker is going to go up by 1. So anyway, let's just get on with our first hero phase, shall we? Okay, so looking at what's in front of us, I think the best thing for me to do this turn would probably be to engage this acolyte. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. Okay, so in order to engage this acolyte, what I'm going to do is I'm first going to spend the 2 action points to move it from the quest area into my engaged area by here. So this means now that we are able to attack it with range 1 cards. Okay, so now that I'm engaged, I'm looking at my hand and I'm thinking this card might actually be useful to me, because if I spend the 2 action points here, I can attach it to an enemy, which if we look here will lower its defense value and its attack value. So what I might do, and it's a range 1 so I can do it on an enemy I'm engaged with, is I'm actually going to spend the 2 action points here in order to attach this to the acolyte. So I'm just going to spend these 2 action points, leaving me with 4, in order to play this card underneath the acolyte. If you look here, look, it will adjust his engagement costs and its attack and defense values. So we're just going to leave him there. He's still engaged with us. And then for our next action, I think what we're going to do is we're going to actually try and play this Groin Strike, which has an attack of 4 plus a bonus action of us being able to draw a card from our hero deck. So first things first, let's play the cost of the card. So that's a 1, leaving us with 3 AP. And then as we're doing it against the enemy, he's got a 0 defense because it's -2 on a 1. So next thing we do is we draw a response card to adjust his defense value. And so now he has +1 defense based on this number versus 4, which means I win, which means I get to take one of these wound cards by here, which for us, we'll be using this part, but for the enemy, they use this bottom part, same as the card I just attached to him, which if we look here, it gives us -1 health, which means this guy has actually been destroyed and is put into a discard pile above the enemy deck. So these now go into my discard pile, and then we go on to our next action. Okay, so we've only got 3 action points left, but we do have quite a few cards that we could use. But I think what's actually probably better for us in this situation, based on the fact that the enemy is actually at range 2, what we're going to do is we're actually going to spend these 3 action points in order to engage this guard, which then takes it from the quest area and puts it into our play area. Okay, so the next phase is the enemy phase. And the way we deal with this is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a response card, and then we're going to reference it to a table, which I'll show you now. You may also notice this response card has requested that I shuffle the deck, which I'll do right now. So for +3. Okay, so with that +3, we cross-reference this with the enemy. And if we look here at the guard, with a +3, it's actually going to disengage or attack. And because we engaged it, it's not actually going to hurt us this time. It's just going to disengage with us, which is kind of a waste of our 3 action points. So let's do that now. So this guy disengages with us and heads back to the quest area. Okay, so now that we've done the enemy phase, we're going to move on to the spawn phase. And if we look at another one of the sheets I've printed out, bear in mind this is a prototype copy. This will probably be a lot nicer laid out when we get a final version. Currently at 0 threat. So it says if there was a door in play, do nothing, which currently there is. Whereas if there wasn't a door in play, then we would have to discard all terrain cards and add 1 card from the enemy deck and 1 card from the terrain deck into the quest area. But because we've got a door in play by here, it means nothing happens. Okay, so our basic goal throughout this scenario is to effectively move through all the terrain cards before the end of 8th threat. So now that we've done the spawn phase, we're going to move on to the draw phase, which is the fun bit of the game. Okay, so the way the draw phase works is first thing we'll do, so you'll look at our character's action point allowance and we'll move that up to 8. Then we're also going to add an extra action point even for each card left in our hand. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 8 plus 5 is 13, giving us 13 action points for this turn. After this point, what we do is we then draw 7 cards from here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it is now at this point that we choose out of all the cards we have, which 7 we're going to take into the next hero phase. So let's have a look now. So I'm definitely going to want to keep these throwing daggers. That's 1. Look at the top card of any deck. Draw 2 cards from here deck. We're going to take that one as well. 2. 5 defense. 3. Then what else we got? Player's card in turn. Oh, we're going to take this one as well. 4. And then we just keep looking. We'll take that as well as another attack. 5. And we just got to find 2 more cards. So I'm going to take 6. And this one here, if you look, it will allow us to draw a response card and gain the action points, and also draw a card from my hero deck. So I'm going to take this one as well. So that's all the cards we can take for this round. That's all 7. Also, anything we didn't keep this round could just go straight into the discard pile by here. Also, by the way, don't forget the end phase, in which the threat is going to go up by 1 in this scenario. If the threat ever reaches 8, we lose. Okay, let's not forget our main objective, which is to get through this terrain deck. So let's take a look at the rules for the door now, which I've got off to the side. Basically, in order to get through this door, what we need to do is beat either 2 plus a response card in action points or 2 plus a response card in defense. And what I'm going to do, based on the fact that we now have 13 action points, is I'm going to spend a large amount of action points in the hopes that I get 2 plus whatever's on here in order to get through the door. So I think I'm actually going to spend 5 action points, bringing us down to 8, which is our starting amount. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip one of these response cards, which is a +3. So 2 plus 3 actually means it's exactly what we need. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this door and discard it. That was actually quite lucky. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to spend another 3 points in order to engage this guard again. And while we're here, let's have a look what's in our hand. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use this Perceptive Edge card on him for, 1 point in order to reduce his defense by 2. If we look at him, he actually only has 2 defense, and it also reduces his attack. So this is actually a very useful card for us. So he's engaged, and he's there. We've just spent another action point in order to attach that to him, which means it's now time to choose what we're going to do to him. So I think what we should do, based on the fact that he has 2 health, let's have a look what we got here. Have we got anything that gives us an extra damage? I don't think we have. But what I am going to do for 0 is I'm going to discard this card in order to reveal a response card and gain the action points equal to the number on it. So let's do that now. Let's have a look at the response card. And because of that, we gain 3 additional action points. So let's go 1, 2, 3. And what we're going to do is I'm actually thinking that I might spend these 2 action points here to attack for 4. Which versus its defense of 0 plus 3 makes it success, which means we're going to deal another wound to it. So let's do that now. So we're going to take a wound off the top of this wound deck, and we're going to stack it underneath this enemy, just like so. And as you can see, this actually doesn't do any damage to him, so this wound was kind of pointless. But what it does do is it reduces his range, which means if he gets to disengage us and attack us from afar, he won't be able to perform his attack. Although looking at his attack values, it's not going to be much use even if he did. So let's just place him back there and try and attack him again. Okay, so looking at our hand, if you can see, we actually don't have much in the way of attacks. In fact, we don't have any at all. But what we do have is we have this experience card, which for 2 action points will allow us to draw 2 cards from the hero deck. So let's just discard that and spend the 2 points in order to draw 2 cards from the hero deck. One of them, oh nice, is an attack. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm actually going to spend another 2 action points here, leaving me with 3, in order to try precision hit with a defense of 0 plus, let's see, plus 2 on his defense, which basically means we're going to hit him again, and this time let's see if we actually got a wound actually helps us. And this wound is a -1, meaning he now only has 1 health left, so let's just sort that out now. So his current stack, even though he has all these things happening to him, he actually has only lost 1 health. So hopefully the next wound we put on him will be enough to finish him off. Just going to discard this now. Okay, so that brings us back onto the enemy phase, and let's see what he does. Okay, we've got a +3 again, so let's check the table like before. And this time it is the guard, and he is basically going to do the same as last time and disengage us / attack. So he's going to disengage and go back into the quest area. Okay, so that brings us back onto the spawn phase where we check our threat, and right now our threat is on 1. So what we're going to do is, if there's a door in play, do nothing, which there isn't. Otherwise, we're going to discard all terrain cards, and there's none in play. And we're going to add 2 cards from the enemy deck and 1 card from the terrain deck. So first of all, we go 1 terrain card, and then 1, 2 enemy cards. And we've got a bone worm, a guard, and rubble. And the thing rubble does basically is it costs us +3 to engage. So this could be troublesome for the next round. Okay, so that brings us on from the spawn phase onto the draw phase. Okay, so the same as before, we go back to our original action value of 8 plus whatever cards are left in the hand, which in this case is 4. So that's going to be 8 plus 4 is 12. Then we're going to draw the same as before, the 7 cards off the top of here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're also basically going to choose which 7 of all of them to keep. And I think in this case, I'm going to keep this 1. 2 for that. We like this card. This card's going to get us a nice lot of action points. So we're going to 3 for that one. We're also going to take these 2 defense cards. So that's 4, 5. Then we've got 2 more cards to choose from. And I think I'll take this defense. And then I'll take this shadowy figure because it deals +1 damage. Sorry. I'm going to take the shadowy figure because it deals +1 damage if the attack is successful. So let's do that now. That's all 7 cards. And the rest, of course, go into our discard pile, which is by here. So after the draw phase, we go into the end phase, which in this case is just going to raise our threat by 1. Okay, so our quest area is starting to look a bit cluttered now. So what I think I should do, don't forget that this rebel means it's going to cost us +3 to actually engage someone. And right now, this guard has -4 on his engagement cost. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to spend 3 action points in order to engage this guard. 1, 2, 3... Although, before I attack him, I think the card I'm going to play is actually going to be this stamina card here, which will basically allow me to draw 2 response cards and gain their values in action points. So let's do that now. So we're going to get 1 plus 1. So even though it costs us 2 to use, it doesn't actually affect us because we're just going to go down 2 and up 2. So we're just going to place this in the discard pile and carry on. Now, what I'm going to do is, after I get rid of these, is I'm going to, looking at what we've got here, so I think the best thing for me to do is to try out this attack. So for 2 action points, and I also get to draw a card, and I can only do it once per attack. So what I'm going to do is that's going to be 3. And then we're going to take defense value of 0 plus 2. So 3 versus 2 means I win, which means that I'm going to draw a wound card, which in this case is a -1. So it means he's actually going to get killed and over to the discard pile. Don't forget this Perceptive Edge card that we put in there must go back to our discard pile. So the wound gets discarded, and this gets discarded, and everything goes back, ready for my next action. Okay, so looking at my hand, we still have an opportunity to attack, and it's only going to cost us 1 action point, but don't forget we've got rubble. So I think our best bet right now would be to engage a bone worm, which has an engagement cost of 1 plus 3 because of the rubble. That's going to be 4. So we're going to spend 4 action points, leaving us with 3. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this backhand slash, which is going to cost me 1 action point. And it's going to be versus a defense of 2. And let's just see if there's anything we can add to our stack. I don't think there is. Nope. So what I'm going to do is we're going to see what his defense value is. He's got defense of 5 versus my 4, which means my attack just didn't work this time. So this is just going to go straight into my discard pile. Okay. Looking at the amount of actions we got left, one of the things I might do is actually looking at what I've got. Nothing really has a cost that would be that important to me. So I'm not actually going to discard for that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay 1 action point to discard 1 or 2 cards and then draw that many cards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to discard this one and discard this one into my discard pile, and then I'm going to draw these 2, which are not as good as I was hoping. But that did cost me 1 action point, so I've only got 1 action point left. The only thing I could do right now, which would cost me 1 action point, would be to just do that again, which I might actually do. So I'm going to discard the Thief Tools and the Surefoot in order to draw another 2 cards. But there's only 1 card left here. So we're going to draw that 1, then we're going to take 2 of these fatigue cards I spoke about earlier. And basically, whenever we deck out, we need to add 2 of these to our discard pile, and then we shuffle it up to form a new draw deck. So let's just do that now. And don't forget, I still got 1 card I need to draw, which is going to be a shadowy figure card. Anyway, now that we're pretty much out of action points, let's get on to the enemy phase. So for this enemy phase, we've actually drawn a 0. So let's see what that means with regards to our acolyte up top and our bone worm by here. So let's check the table. On the table, according to the 0, we have the guard, which is up top, which is going to disengage an attack, which means he's going to attack us. And then it's up to us then to basically use this defense value in order to avoid the attack. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the somersault card to give me 4 defense. So it's 2 plus 2 is 4, which means I block the attack. So this is going to go into my discard. Then we're going to activate the bone worm. Let's see what the bone worm does on a 0. So bone worm. It is also going to attack / engage. So because it's already engaged with me, it's actually going to attack me. And it's going to do an attack value of 3 plus... I'm going to play that there, and then we're going to draw its response card. And so that's 3 plus 4 is 7, which means it beats me. So that's no good. I lose my defense. And then because of its icons up here, it means that I'm actually going to take 2 wounds into my hand. So let's do that now. So we get 1 wound and 2 wounds. And the 2 wounds we've got is basically if we were to add this to an attack and take -1 hits on it, it would basically put this in our discard pile. And with this one, it would cost us 5 action points to get it into our discard pile. The difference between wounds and fatigue is that fatigue, when it's discarded, will actually get removed from your deck, whereas wounds will stay in your deck and just go into your personal discard pile. So now we've got these 2. They also count towards our draw phase, so that's one advantage, I guess. So now we've done the enemy phase, I think it's time for us to move on to the spawn phase. Okay, so right now we got 2 threats, so if 0 in play, do nothing, which we don't. Otherwise, we discard all terrain cards and add 1 card from the enemy deck and 1 card from the terrain deck into the quest area. Okay, so based on that, after we discarded our rubble, we're going to draw another terrain card, which in this case is a door, and another enemy, which is another one of these guards. Then it's back onto our draw phase, and don't forget we have to keep these in our hand. We can't get rid of them unless we do the effect. And we got another 2, so that's going to be 8 plus 4 is going to be 12. Now we're going to draw 7 cards from our deck, and see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 what we want to keep. But it's important to note that we always have to keep any wound or fatigue that we draw. So let's have a look through. We got no fatigue in here, good. Okay, so I think what we actually need, which might help us, especially in this situation, we're going to take Rogue Tactics. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. Then we need to think of maybe this attack, and then we're going to take this better positioning card, which will give us more action points. So that's a grand total of 7 in our hand right now. Okay, so looking at the things are right now, the first thing I probably want to do is to get rid of this bone worm, so I'm no longer engaged with an enemy, so I can actually attempt to get through this door. So let's do that now. Let's have a look at what we got. Okay, so one of the first things I'm going to do, just to sort of guarantee my success here, is that I'm going to spend 2 points in order to attach this to the bone worm. So let's do that now. So that's 2 action points, bringing us down to 10. Attaching this to the bone worm, which basically, if you read here, will actually lower its defense value to 0 for us, which is actually really handy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our attack cards, which in this case is actually, we're going to take Blade Mastery out. And we're going to try and play it for its 3 on here, with defense of 0 plus 1, meaning that the attack is a success, forcing it to draw a wound, which is -1, killing this off. So this goes into a discard pile, this goes over here, and then we get this back into our discard pile, like so. But we did manage to disengage, which is exactly what we was trying to do. Okay, so let's think about dealing with this door. So we need 2 plus whatever it draws in action points in order to get through it. So let's try that now. Okay, so looking right now, we have 8 action points. So I'm going to spend 5 of them, reducing it to 3. And then we're going to draw one of these response cards to see if we get through the door. So 2 plus 4 is 6, meaning we failed the door test. Oh well, never mind. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to place this better positioning card for 2 action points, reducing me to 1. Which means I get to draw 2 response cards. 1, -1, and 2. So that would actually get us 1. But if you look here, once per hero phase, when you are resolving an action, which a number of cards are being drawn, you may redraw all of the cards drawn. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of these 2 and draw 2 more. So that's 1 plus 0. So I only actually gained 1 action point from that. So it's kind of a pointless action. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to run through 1 more enemy phase, 1 more spawn phase, 1 more draw phase, and then an end phase. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I think of this prototype so far. Okay, so that brings us on to the enemy phase again. And we get a +2, which if we look here, let's see what they do. +2 for the guard is going to be poison, which means we take a fatigue card straight into our hand. So I'm going to do that now. And then what we're going to do for the Rotica is it's actually going to engage us, which will move it into our play area. And that's the enemy phase dealt with. Now it's time to deal the spawn. So if we look back at our threat, we can see that we're actually, even though we're at 3 threat right now, because there's a door in play, it's actually not going to do anything. So this is going to stay as it is. Then we're going to move on to the draw phase, the same as usual. So we're going to go up to 8, and let's not forget that fatigue and wounds actually count towards this as well. So it's 8 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 8 plus 5, giving us 13. And then we're going to draw our 7 cards as usual. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're going to choose what to keep. Bearing in mind we have to keep anything that is fatigue or wound. So first of all, we've got 1, 2, 3 cards that have to be in there. So we're only actually getting to choose 4 cards to take with us. And I think in this situation I'm going to take a defense, an attack, another attack card, the throwing dagger, which works at range 2. And I think what I might do here is draw 2 cards from the hero deck. And that is everything we can do. Okay, so that's end phase, giving us 1 more threat. And I think now would be a good time for me to just get back to the table and let you know a little bit of how I feel about this game. Okay, so now that we've seen how the game is played, it's time for me to tell you what I think. And first of all, I just want to say that I really like the action economy of spending action points to play cards. I think it's much more interesting than the way a lot of other card games do it, where they just actually have you generate resources with other cards. I found it quite enjoyable. I also like the way that a lot of the cards have dual uses, which is something I've liked in a lot of games like Mage Knight, etc, etc. I just think overall it's a very interesting card game. It has a lot of interesting mechanics, like the wound mechanic, for example, which doesn't just affect the health, but it actually affects all the other stats as well of the enemy. So it really does give you a thematic feeling of weakening the enemy as you hit them. I just generally think overall it's quite enjoyable. I enjoyed the story aspect of it, which comes in the text before scenarios and after. I feel that its threat system is just about right. It's really challenging as well, which is something I wasn't expecting about this game. I also really like its terrain system because it means they can adjust rules on the fly for certain scenarios. Overall as well, I really want to mention the fact that this modifier deck, although in most games like Gloomhaven and Sleeping Gods would really annoy me, in this game I find it wasn't overused and that it actually was quite simple to operate and enjoyable for myself. So I was quite impressed with this because I generally don't like these kind of modifier decks. So anyway, that was what I thought of this game. I think it's an amazing game. I can't wait for the final version to come along. And I'm probably going to be playing it a lot when it does. So if you like anything you've seen here, or you like to add something to your collection from on my shelf behind me, please feel free to check out the link to Firestorm Games in my description. Also, if you like what you've been watching, please feel free to smash that subscribe button up there and check out another one of my videos over here. Anyway, I've been Johnny, you've been watching the Hexy Beast, thank you for watching, and most of all, stay Hexy everyone!